All right. You see what I do here, right? With my glasses every day. By the way, happy Holy Week to you. I don't think you guys get the significance when I put the glasses on. Why do I put the glasses on? Because most of you can't handle Superman. So I've got to give you big chills. That's why. You see, Superman puts on the Clark Kent glasses. So some of you can deal with big sills here. That's how you do it. By the way, Monster Show, Dick Vermeil will join us at 3:30. Mike Quick at 5:30. How you doing? As always, we get the biggest names in Philly and around the country. Super Bowl and Hall of Fame coach Dick Vermeil. 3:30. Mike Quick. Mike was awesome today on the phone. I so love the guy. Okay? Sills. I don't really care about the new additions right now. I'm like, I get it, Mike. I get it, right? Take off the glasses, Clark Kent. Sorry, Chris. It's the only way you can deal with big sills if I come at you like I'm Clark Kent. Because I can't come at you as big sills. Most of you get a little bit, upset and your panties in a bind. Start wearing a cape. Nah, I don't want to scare too many people. Eagles 24-25 Super Bowl. Come on now. Hi, right? Where's Lois Lane? I don't know. Big Sills, I fly alone. How you doing? By the way, the Eagles got some poor news today. Howie Roseman loses one of his longtime assistants in the front office, Jake Rosenberg. Guy's a salary cap guru. This is a guy who was involved in all negotiatings when it came to constructing contracts. I'm not saying that Howie wasn't the guy that he learned from, but obviously this guy wants an opportunity to become a general manager somewhere else. Kudos to him. He really doesn't even have a gig. He wants to leave and pursue an opportunity to become a guy who wants to run his own ship and be his own general manager. And the way Howie and the way Jeffrey Lurie were talking, make no mistake about it, this guy is an absolute loss to the front office. So kudos to him, man. Hey, by the way, this guy's setting sail. That's how you're all in. That's how you're all in, man. Why leave now, though? All jobs filled out of the league for a year? Interesting. So are you saying that behind the scenes, maybe he was pushed out? Or maybe he wanted out because he knows Howie's on the hot seat? Why wouldn't you stay then? Would they clean out the front office? Or, quite frankly, can I tell you why? And Xander says, interesting. Why do you think Jake Rosenberg left? Why did Jake Rosenberg, one of the most trusted guys in the front office, why would he leave? Howie's not on the hot seat. Okay, I agree. Why would he wants to be a GM? Okay. Yes. Or maybe it's the son, Julian, that's being prepped to be the new general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles once Howie steps down. And he knows he has no chance at being the general manager of the Eagles because Julian's going to be the general manager, just like Stephen Jones is really in waiting to become the general manager / head operator of the Cowboys once Jerry steps down. He knows there's no chance for him to be the GM. The next GM of the Philadelphia Eagles will be Julian Lurie. That's who the next GM is. And that's why he's stepping down. You can hear, and when you read all the comments that Howie's making about what a valued person he was, Julian Lurie is going to be the next general manager. He's being groomed for the job. Am I wrong? Toy Xander just said, interesting. Xander's right. Why do it now? Because he knew right then and there. He probably asked Howie, is there a shot I could ever become general manager here? Doubtful. Because the next general manager after me will be my son. That's what they're grooming him for. What do you think they're grooming him for? He's already going to be / part of the ownership. The father's going to remain the owner. Okay? Julian Lurie got into Harvard because of his name, got a degree in psychology. He ain't becoming the GM. He's becoming the owner. No, he's not. He's already going to get the team when his dad passes. When Howie Roseman leaves, or the owner feels fit to remove him, his son's going to become the GM of that football team. That's what the Joneses did. Okay? Dad's the owner, man. He doesn't need to become owner. That team's going to go to him anyway. Who do you think he listens more to? His son or Howie? By the way, I listened to the interview with the Yorksman. And we're gonna get into the Yorksman's comments there in Orlando. We're gonna be doing that here quick. Sills, no worries. Howie knows that Harvard, Yale, and Wharton will spit out another football guy this summer. Julian Lurie is going to be the new general manager. Not this year, next year, year after. But when this thing doesn't continue to work, or the owner gets tired of Howie, or they don't win another Super Bowl anytime soon, there's your replacement. I say within the next 5 years, Julian Lurie is the next general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay? I'm with you, Flexen. We're going to get to that here in a minute. That was bizarre. That press conference that the owner had was bizarre. And I wrote some cliff notes down here. I went back and had to listen to it twice, actually. Okay? I mean, you would swear that this guy is involved in every single decision that the Philadelphia Eagles make. And just like Angelo Cataldi said the other day, I mean, it was bizarre. Okay? I mean, it was completely bizarre. And everything when asked, when it came to what happened. So let's dive into this. Big Sills' takeaway from the Yorksman, Jeffrey Lurie, on the Eagles' Chernobyl meltdown at the end of last year. How you doing there, Ken? Appreciate it. So I wrote these notes down, and then I added in my takeaway from it. Nick, get this. So one of the things that the owner said was that Sirianni had a better meeting with him than Doug. And that was one of the determining factors that he leaned on to keep his gig. And how Sirianni kept his gig. So Nick was a better liar than Doug? Doug was being truthful about the direction of the team? And he got fired for being honest? And Nick got the ability to keep his job because he was less honest? I'd rather have you call me and swear at me and tell me what a BS job the whole season was at the end than tell me things I want to hear. I mean, thank God. And get this, really the overall takeaway from what I got from it is that Nick Sirianni, if he didn't bend and agree to those new coordinators, he would have been fired too. Whereas Doug wasn't happy with the direction that they were taking his coaching staff. Now, this is my takeaway. These are my takeaways. Doug was like, no. And so was he more combative? Don't you want a head football coach that has a backbone? Don't you want a head football coach that's going to question direction of your team, your coaching staff, your roster? Don't you want a guy like that? Don't you want a guy who's going to ask those important questions? Where are we going? Why does this guy make this call on this here? Why is he doing that? I don't get it. I want a coach who's got backbone. That's one of the things I took. So Doug didn't have a very good exit interview. And that's why he's no longer the head coach of the Eagles. And Nick lied better. I don't get that. So the owner likes to hear, like Angelo said, the owner doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't want you saying anything negative about the direction of how they're taking their team. Remember what I told you, the most important thing to the owner. It's not winning a Super Bowl. It's being competitive for one and control. That's why they love Nick. That was one of my takeaways. And by the way, some would probably say, why are you bringing Doug up? Well, your owner did. Your owner brought him up yesterday. Okay? Sills, men who ask hard questions, stand up, are usually leaders. Jeffrey wants followers. Amen. That's exactly how, Bob, that's my exact takeaway. Bob with the wrench. That's my takeaway too. It made me not respect Sirianni more because he didn't even ask, why did you guys make the decision on Desai and Patricia, who in their right mind wouldn't have asked that? Hey, why'd you guys make that decision to do that? It completely unraveled our football team. Why didn't he ask that? Because he doesn't have a backbone. By the way, Maniac, I don't hand out the wrenches here. Everyone's like, how come Sills? I wouldn't even know where that is. That's something you got to work on with Xander, man. Xander is the one that gives, he's the one that gives that out here. Nick wants some. Dude, I'm just telling you, Lurie wants his coaches to hold his nuts. Corey, I agree. Now, here's another one I take away here. Why did the Yachtsman keep Nick? The Yachtsman. He said there was pluses and minuses that he weighed through. What were the pluses? What are the pluses? Everyone got their numbers? What were the pluses of last year? Did Jalen get better? No. Get this. The biggest investment that he made last year got worse. And everyone else around that investment got better. Do you think that's a good investment? Would you put money into that stock? If everything around that stock got better except the stock itself, would you invest in that? AJ had a good year. Devontae had a good year. DeAndre had a good year. I mean, Hurts didn't. Okay, tell me. What were the pluses? The nuclear meltdown at the end? He weighed through the pluses and minuses. I was like, what is he talking about? Pluses and minuses. This guy's baffling, the Yorkshireman. You guys have had some pretty interesting owners. The guy in France and the Yorkshireman. He says he talked to over 1,000 people. That's not leadership. I don't need to talk to 1,000 people. I need to talk to Nick, Howie, and me. And I'll make the decision on what I'm going to do. I'm not talking to the janitor. I'm not talking to Big Dom. I'm not talking to any of those guys. I don't give a shit what they think. I'm the leader of the team. This is my football team. And I'm not going to ask 100 guys their opinions. I don't care. Buck stops here with me. I'm the leader. I don't want 78 different voices in my ear. I think that's part of the problem that you have. You have no clarity in that building. Talking to 1,000 people? Who gives a shit about that? Why in the world would you care what coaches and players think? I don't care what coaches and players think. It's the least people I'm going to talk to are the players. Because the players don't have good judgment when it comes to that. Okay? You don't define your roles in that building. You're the player, I'm the owner. You're the GM, you're the coach. Everybody wants to do everybody else's role and everyone else's job for them. Do your job. Just like Belichick said, do your job. 1,000 people he talked to? Okay? I mean, right. What are you doing? Talking to the guys at Geno's too? What do you guys think? He says he even talks to fans. Who gives a shit about the fans? What would they possibly know? What would they know? You know what? I'll take that back. Actually, they do know. Run the ball. They knew it from day one. Fans probably know more than half the people in that building because you know why? I think people in that building are afraid to give their opinion. That's my takeaway. When Lurie talks to people and then tells people that Doug didn't have a good interview, no one's going to tell the truth in that building. Nick is still here because Lurie said, we're hiring Kellen and Vic. Nick said, okay, that works for me. Where Doug said, F no to their coaches. Completely true. You can hear it in the interview. That's exactly true. Yes. Even the Inquirer had that takeaway. Thank God that Sirianni said yes to those new coaches, or guess what? There would have been a new head coach in that building. That just shows you how close he was to being fired. Dude, it's a bizarre leadership roles that people have in that building. It's really bizarre. That owner is a mingling owner. Not so much like, see, the difference between Jerry and Jeffrey Lurie, Jeffrey Lurie's not as public as Jimmy, or Jerry, I should say, with the two radios. I'm surprised he doesn't have a radio show. This guy is more involved in decision makings that he shouldn't be, maybe more than any other owner outside the guy in Dallas. Talk to 1,000 people for what? What could they possibly have told you about the decision that you made to put Sean Desai on the sidelines and put Matt Patricia in the room? What was the clarity move on that? He was asked, is Nick's job in jeopardy? By the way, Bob reminds us all super chats go to the top. Sills, recycling Nick would prove that Howie and Jeffrey misplayed their hand when hiring rookie coordinators last season. They couldn't even admit to that, Bob. They couldn't even admit to that. You're dead on. The plus in keeping Nick allows the NovaCare plan to stay intact. Great take. Absolutely great take. Awesome take. When you hear people on my network and you hear people on the radio in Philadelphia lying to you that that's a good run front office, it's not true. They have talented people in that front office that overcome ego. I know that may be hard to digest, but it's true. They know how to cut deals, but they don't know how to say no to the owner. Does that make sense? They don't know how to say no to him. I think Nick knows the politics in that office. I think he made the decisions himself, but I think he did because he knew if he didn't, he was gone. Dirty D, I'm going to expand on yours in a second. Joseph, Sills, Doug wanted to hire Press Taylor. Yes, he did. As OC in Philly. You kidding me? The conversation is irrelevant. Would you want Press as your OC? No, but I want my coach, if he's going to die on the vine, Joseph, I want my coach to die on the vine with people he hired, not people that were picked for me to fail. Joseph's right. Hey, Joseph, that's not saying Doug would have picked the right offensive coordinator, but I want my head coach to have that autonomy. Does that make sense? If I'm going to die, let me die at my own hands, not at someone else's hands. If I'm going to make it and be successful, let me be successful at my own hands. That's the thing with control that the Eagles hate. They don't want their coaches to, they want complete control of, they want more control of their coach than they do their quarterback. Okay? Sills, the only guy that can, with this front office, as a new head coach, is Frank Reich. Frank told Nick how to maneuver through it. He said, I'm going to tell you the things Doug did wrong. And that's why Nick is still here. That's a fact. You know I'm close with Frank Reich. If you want to be the head coach of the Eagles, you've got to play the front office game. I wonder if Lurie watches your show. Half that building at the NovaCare, whether two people or one person watch the show, those people will be from the NovaCare Center. I know this for a fact. Mike Quick told me today. That offense in Jacksonville looks horrible under Press Taylor. Would be the same. You're missing my point, Joseph. Joseph, you're missing my point. Okay, true. But a head coach should have the right to hire his assistants, not people above him hiring coaches he doesn't know or trust. Do you understand? When a front office hires assistant coaches like your Eagle team does, the head coach has no say. He has no say because those assistant coaches were hired by the owner and GM, not the head coach, no matter what they tell you. Okay? Doug wanted Press is no different than Chip Kelly having his own plan or bringing Jeff. Hey, how about this one, Bob? That's correct. How about this one? Do you think Chip Kelly had the right to hire Jeff Stoutland? Do you? That's right, too. Right there. That's another great take. Kevin, especially after winning a Super Bowl, he earned that right. Amen. Amen. Perfect. Yes. That's right. That's correct. Okay? I'll tell you this, Press Taylor's more qualified to be the offensive coordinator on a football team in the NFL than what Brian Johnson was. Okay? Right? And Doug did earn that right to hire who he wanted. Holy cow. This is crazy. That's why I'm telling you, that press conference with that owner was bizarre. Anthony says no matter how good or bad a coach is, they hire the staff, period. If Howie wants to hire coaches, be a coach instead of a GM. Anthony, yes. And by the way, Anthony and I don't agree on a lot. I completely agree with what he said. Correct. The coach has no loyalty to the head coach if they didn't hire him. Correct. That's why, hey, Prince, do you truly believe that Nick Sirianni had any loyalty to Sean Desai or to Matt Patricia when those moves were made and why he didn't fight for those guys? And that's why when he didn't fight for him, the players didn't play for him. Now we're starting to get, okay? Now we're starting to get somewhere on what happened. You understand what happened? Nick didn't fight for these coaches. He didn't fight for him. That's why there was a meltdown. When the players didn't play for him, Nick didn't fight for him. And the players saw it play out. Lurie didn't need to talk to 1,000 people. Should have just talked to me. Would have set them straight. Hey, the two guys sitting out front of the NovaCare Center with the sign that said, run the ball. He could have talked to those two guys. Right? Jeff and Howie didn't think Doug won the Super Bowl. They think they won it. No, what they've done is, Bob, they've reversed and tried to erase and tried to change history and thinking that their process won it. When in turn, their process lost Super Bowls. Think about what happened. And again, this bizarre press conference tells you all you need to know. They're always going to be hit or miss on coaches now because you know why? They don't value them. They don't value these coaches. That owner doesn't give a shit about Nick Sirianni. He just cares. He says yes. And he doesn't fight him or the organization's ways of doing things. Or he doesn't ask for control. Doug, when he won the Super Bowl, like some of you said, had the right to want more control of his team. He earned it. It's funny. They take the Hassan Reddick bonus away and move it to April 1. And funny, man, you earned some shit in that building. They could take it away from you. We're the Cowboys. Lurie's just like Jerry now. Not as bombastic, but similar mentality and ego. Yeah. Did you hear that? I took it off the Eagle Wet. I can't believe they posted that thing. That's not a glowing review of how the owner looks at stuff. You should watch it. Honestly, you'll come back here the next day and go, damn, man, really? That's how that guy sees his organization? I'm telling you, even get this. Am I right, Xander? Look at the headlines. Even in the Inquirer, guys were going, what? They were using the words bizarre too. There you go, Jason. It's really revealing. Doug Peterson was fired because the owner and the general manager feared that he'd get more credit than them. How about this? Did Doug Peterson deserve another chance to dig himself out of the four-win season after winning you a Super Bowl? Didn't he deserve a shot at teaching Wentz or Jalen? Why was it so imperative for you to sabotage that last game? Now I'm under the impression the owner and the GM sabotaged that last game to make it look as ugly as they could, to put public tar on Doug Peterson so that it was easier to fire him. I'm sorry I'm saying that, Because I wouldn't believe that unless I heard that interview. They sabotaged Doug in the end. Just listen to the guy talk. Boy, are they going to call my bosses on this. Holy cow. I think that guy and I think that general manager are connivers. They are connivers. They may be great capologists. They may do a nice job at things inside that organ. But when it comes to being backstabbers, they're the two best I've ever seen. Holy cow. That's prototypical NFL right there. That's not just a Philly thing. So many owners in the NFL act like that. I'll stab you in the back. They stabbed Doug in the back. They were preparing to stab Sirianni in the back. The owner's going to stab Howie in the back and put his kid in the general manager's role. That's why this guy resigned. Let me move on. Oh, wait, I got to answer this. Nick's job in jeopardy. Well, we had a great conversation. And at the end of 2023, I had to sit and think about it for a couple days. I'm paraphrasing this. And then I came to my decision. We should move forward with him. Now you have to ask yourself, there's no question, his ass is on the hot seat in 23. This thing was closer than you thought to being fired. Hey, I thought he was going to go into that meeting with a 50-50 chance to keep his job. I think they went into that meeting planning to fire him. Steve, right? Totally. If you're not a yes person in that organization, you can't work there. Do you know what you have to do? Do you want me to tell you what Frank said? You have to nod your head like this. And in a subtle way, do it your way. Yeah, okay. So you have to play along, kind of get along, and pray your way works in a subtle way. That is so much work to do when you can just go, I want to do it this way here. You got to go an extra step to make sure their feelings aren't hurt or that you're not challenging their authority. One of the absolute weirdest press conferences I've ever heard an owner put on. The biggest issue I had with the coaches last year was their lack of coaching knowledge. They were consistently being told what to do by the players. Prince, that's because they didn't have to talk to the head coach, because they knew the owner and the GM put those coaches in the building. That's why they didn't have, hey, I'll say it one more time. I really do believe the players really do love Nick, but they know he has no say, so they don't respect his coaching position because the Eagles don't. The press conference yesterday told you all you needed to know about how he looks at things and how he views stuff. Again, if you guys took different takeaways away, okay, then please. And by the way, I'm not really ripping. I'm more shocked on what I heard. Big Chris, you must kiss ass to stay employed by the Eagles. Man, how about just being good? Seals, could it be possible Eagles could hire Kelsey to have in a front row office? I guess they like him enough. Look at the difference. Doug won the Super Bowl and wasn't given a chance to fix it. Nick lost the Super Bowl and has been given a chance to fix it. Eagles prefer power over wins. Couldn't control a winner. Hey, Xander, this guy Anthony and I, we rarely see eye to eye. Can you please, that's a freaking, his best take since he's been on this program. That is the best take you've ever had. That is exactly the definition of the identity of the ownership and the front office of the Philadelphia Eagles right there, Anthony, and I'm proud you're a Paisan. That is exactly it in a nutshell. Kudos to you, dude. That is 1,000% it. Again, I'm not really ripping. I'm just reflecting. The players were carrying the team. Yep. You got. Hey, Prince, you may have said that. Players were carrying the team as far. Hey, Sills and I got tied at the end. I always hated Howie. He has a Napoleon complex. They also got burned with Chip Kelly. Hey, Prince, you may have said this, that the players were carrying that team. And I'll say something else to you, Prince. They probably carried the water as far as they could. And then they couldn't carry it any further. So maybe you guys are right. They have a Super Bowl contending team. But the Eagle front office and owner will get in the way again. Holy cow. The Philadelphia Eagles don't get to the NFC Championship game. I may have to revise this. It's not because of the talent you have on the field. And that's why you guys may be looking at it differently to me. But we may be saying the same thing. Sills, we have a good team. But we don't have good front office people because they get in the way. That might just be it. That just might be. You know what? Isn't it funny? You guys have had really great. Wouldn't we say this? That the Eagles have had a really good roster for about 24 years. Some sporadic bad teams, but they've all underachieved. Except one. That team overachieved. Get this, your best teams didn't win the Super Bowl. The team that overachieved the most did, with the great coaches you had on it. Schwartz, former head coach. Frank Reich, head coach. Doug Peterson, head coach. All three head coaches. Overachieving head coaches. And you know what the dynamic was that you had on that staff? What was the dynamic that was so different? When I say overachieving, between Doug Peterson and Frank Reich, you know what it was? They were both backup quarterbacks who fought for everything. They were assistant coaches who were former players in the league who had to go the extra mile because most people don't like hiring former players as assistant coaches. I happen to like that dynamic, that you're a former player. Okay? I mean, man, he was just bizarre. Jalen Hurts and Nick. He was asked questions about those two. He goes like this. Well, I just want Nick to be himself and Jalen to be himself. I don't. I expect more. And I don't want Nick to be a cheerleader on the sideline screaming at fans and having to have Big Dom control him on the sidelines because he's too immature as a man. And I want Jalen to speak up more. I want Jalen to lead more. I want him to be a better leader. By the way, leading by example sometimes is not good enough in today's NFL. Players see how you act. Jalen Hurts is a great self-leader. And what do I mean by that? Hurts knows how to overcome adversity himself. Does his team? No. That team's a front-running team. When things are great, they're great. When things are shitty, they're awful. That's reflection of leadership from the head coach and the quarterback. Look, dude, not everybody's Mahomes. Get it. But leadership is developed because of strong leadership at the top. The Eagles don't have strong. Howie's not a leader. The owner's not. Listen to him. Make excuses and deflect. Listen to those two guys at the press conferences in Orlando at the owners' meetings. I thought it was the most bizarre thing I've ever heard for an organization that I thought was better. Get this, you are good. You guys are good. And get this, they're good in some things they do. But they can't stand not being involved in everything. I'm gonna, I always reflect when it comes to using Coach Johnson as a benchmark. And the greatest thing I watched him do? When Jerry Jones was wanting and courting Jimmy to be the head coach of the Cowboys. Now, look, there was no cap then. It was different. Some of you are dead on right. But let me tell you, man, Jerry Jones made no football decisions at all whatsoever with that Cowboy franchise. It was all him. And those players in that room all knew the buck stopped with him. Jerry had no say. And that organization was either they were 1-15. How many people would have wanted in Philadelphia Jimmy Johnson fired if he had a 1-15 season? You would have been screaming at him to be fired. And you know what? Lurie would have fired him. Instead, Jimmy's like, no, we're going to head in the right direction. We're going to do this my way. The only reason Jimmy Johnson is in the Hall of Fame is because his best friend in college and his best friend in his life believed in him. That owner doesn't believe in Sirianni or Doug Peterson or Andy Reid or any of them guys. He doesn't have the blind faith you need. You imagine 1-15. You imagine Jimmy Johnson 1-15 in Philly. Shit, Xander was saying this about Nick Sirianni 2-5. This guy ain't gonna make it through the season. Not in Philly. You would have fired him at the end of the year. Would have lost out on a Hall of Fame coach. He says, nah, I'm good. 2 years later, they won the Super Bowl. And they went back to back. And 3 and 4 years under his leadership. Because he had complete clarity and he had complete autonomy. And then Jerry, what happened? His ego got in the way. He wanted the credit for building the team. And the Cowboys have never been the same. Think about that. Since you fired him, they've never been the same. Why? Because you think you have to do everything. You know what's funny? I don't ever remember Coach Johnson ever calling a play on the sidelines. Never. Nope. I don't ever remember a press conference where he said, yeah, you know what? This is my defense or my offense. And you know what? I don't ever remember any of that shit. Never. It was North Turner's offense. It was Dave Wannstedt or Butch's defense. Nope, those are the guys. Because you know what he would do? You weren't good enough, you are fired. He brought his own coaches. Did you think there was a coincidence he brought all those coaches from Miami and places that coach at Oklahoma State with him to the Cowboys? They won Super Bowls and national titles together. How can Doug win with other people's coaches? I don't get it. And you listen, it sounds like chaos. Sills, honestly, if Lurie wants to screw around with this team, he can. But when it comes to the media, won't hold him accountable for his mistakes. They won't. That's right. The media in Philadelphia today, and part of the problem is that organization's PR department and how they are a propaganda tool for the Eagles. And it's not really giving you information. It's propaganda. It's a propaganda machine. There's no question about it. They set the narrative on the market, and they give accessibility to certain people, and they take accessibility away from certain people. They criticize people. They call people's bosses. They tell people and they give people certain information because they play along with them too. And that's why there's false narratives about. Listen to that interview. Did you listen to that thing? Sills, I'm going overboard with Lurie. I'm sorry, that press conference he had was bizarre. Okay, it was bizarre. I don't care what you said about Lurie. He's a good owner, certainly better than Brayman. That's not much. Again, Steve's telling me that Jeffrey Lurie's a better owner than Norman Brayman is like telling me that Devin White is an upgrade from Zach Cunningham. Okay? I thought the idea was to improve yourself into being a championship quality team and not get in the way. You know, the Eagles should have 4 Super Bowls by now. They should have 4 Super Bowls. Should have 4 Super Bowls. I mean, he talked to 1,000 people. Who were those 1,000 people? Coaches and players formed your opinion on whether you should keep Nick or not? Dude, you saw how that was. Look, Nick's what did Nick say to you and to the Yachtman that helped keep his job? Well, we had plus and minuses column, and that's how we determined whether or not he was going to stay or go. I think you guys are now right. You guys do have a good team. Unfortunately, you have too many voices on that team. And you have no leadership. Leadership is when you need it the most, not when things are going great. And every time things go south on that team, they go south. And no one stops it. That's not leadership. That's false leadership. I still think Julian Lurie's analytics generated that dopey chunk play heavy offense. It gave, I agree too a little bit. Okay. Once again, LJ going overboard. Owner sucks. GM sucks. Our players suck. Janitors suck. Yeah. Listen to the interview. All you have to do is listen to that thing. It's bizarre. Even the Inquirer, LJ, unlike you, thought the thing was bizarre. Thought it was bizarre. And even said if Nick didn't bow down to the new hires, he'd be fired. This guy's, some of you people in here are making it sound like I made that up. The Inquirer also echoed it. They also echoed the same shit I just said. Okay? Who cares? He's a billionaire owner. Well, don't expect that guy to do the right things because he's a billionaire owner. You kidding me? Look at David Tepper. David Tepper's a shitty owner with more money than anybody in the league. And you know what? That guy will never win. Jeffrey Lurie has some good people. This guy, what's his name? Jake Rosenberg quit because he knows Julian Lurie's going to be the next general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. Writing's on the wall. He knows he can't advance. Plus, Howie's there. He'll never be the GM. Dude, the guy in waiting is Julian. And he knows for a fact He's not ever going to elevate himself, and he has to leave. Okay? And the way they talked at the owners' meetings, you could tell that this is a big loss for them. Lurie and Roseman are connivers, and I have been for a long time. And no, Deb, his press conference predicates that. Look at Bob makes a point here. Sills, talking to 1,000 people means nothing because he didn't listen to any of them. If you surround yourself with yes men and lock out dissenting opinions, you are destined to fail. You sound like NBC. Locking out other opinions. I love having dissenting opinions on a view. I do. I want to hear that. Okay? I want to hear that. Why is that, in your opinion, not right? Why am I wrong? Because it gives you some clarity on some stuff. It does. Okay? It does. I want to hear a coach say, no, that's, Coach Johnson used to go around the room with his assistant coaches when it came to players who would play and players who they would keep and who they wouldn't keep, whether it was Miami or it was in the NFL. And Jimmy would go like this, why do you want to keep this guy? He already had it in his mind who he wanted to keep and who he didn't want to keep. But he wanted his assistant coaches because you know what he was also doing? He wanted to know if you knew what you were talking about. Why do you want to keep this player? Because I think this guy has more than what that guy does, and he's going to be there for me when I need him. And he takes all that in, okay? And when you fight for people, you're more apt to keep the people. But if you're an assistant coach and you're not fighting for anybody except for your own job, you don't have any clarity in the building, and when shit goes sideways, you lose. Okay? That organization has underachieved. They should have more Super Bowls. There's a handful of teams that have won the final game of the year over you. You guys count these 12-win seasons, and it's fool's gold. That 11 wins last year was fool's gold. It didn't matter if you won 7 games or 11 games. Did it really matter in the end? Think about this. Prince, think of this for a second. Some of you in here, like LJ and some of you other guys will go, he's been a successful owner. What's the difference between 7 wins and 11 wins if you don't go anywhere? What's the difference? Look at the 49ers. The 49ers got to 4 quarters, and to the final 4 quarters, actually, they had to go to overtime. They had to go to 5 quarters. And at the end of the day, they underachieved. They were the better team. So you know what it was? It wasn't a colossal failure, but it underachieved. Well, it's small. I get all that. I'm talking, they're the better team. Okay? They're the better team. 11 wins meant nothing unless Jalen goes back to RPOs and running instead of this overpaid bum that he played like last year. Charlie, if they go back to RPOs, he's a Super Bowl contending MVP candidate. If they don't, they'll never see it. They'll get further away from it. The further away they get from Jalen Hurts running the ball, the further away they will get from being a Super Bowl contending team, because that's not who he is. He's not a better thrower than runner. He's a better runner setting up his pass. His running sets up the one deficiency he has, being a pocket guy. He's better in the pocket when you fear him running. When you don't run him, I don't fear him. I don't. When Hurts has the element of running, he's a weapon. Here's something else. You know, and I said this too, Charlie. Here's, you know, I saw, and I think Xander or James put something up. And James, thank you, brother. I said something about Josh Allen yesterday. Josh Allen can win with lesser talent. Jalen can't. It's plain and simple. He's had lesser talent his entire career in Buffalo around him than what Hurts has had in Philly. He has. There's not one thing that he's had that was superior to what Hurts had. So I want to clarify that. Allen wins with lesser talent. He wins with lesser talent. Brock Purdy also lost by 3 in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts are the same. Okay? Oh, no. Oh, wait, whoa. I didn't say the same rules don't apply that he's got to win too. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he wins with lesser talent. Okay, well, he's won just as many ball games as Jalen has. And he's won 4 straight AFC East championships. He's won about 70% of his games like Jalen has with lesser talent. And you guys keep hanging on that Super Bowl. That means shit to me right now because he didn't win it. Because there's been lesser quarterbacks than Jalen get to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's the only thing you have on him. Nothing. He plays with lesser talent, and he plays with a defensive coach, and he's a better skilled player with lesser talent. Rick, look, that's all Rick has. 0 Super Bowl appearances. So you're telling me that Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy are in the same room with Jalen Hurts. Congratulations. Jalen Hurts is compared to Jimmy Garoppolo and to Brock Purdy. Okay. Sure. You can have that comparison. I'll take Allen if that's who those 3 guys are, because he's nothing close to that. And just think of this. That guy leads the NFL in turnovers every year. Think about that, Xander. He leads the NFL in turnovers every year and still wins as many games as Hurts. And he's won 4 straight AFC titles. And he wins with lesser talent. How's that possible? That shows you his greatness. He's at the top of the board every year in turnovers. And still, he wins as much, if not more than him. That's crazy. He has no one around him. Big Marshall, appreciate it. He was the best quarterback in the Super Bowl? Really? Unfortunately, he made the biggest mistakes in the Super Bowl, too, that cost him the game. Mahomes doesn't make mistakes in Super Bowls. Your guy did. Scoop and score, baby. Buffalo has had way better defense during Allen's time. Really? You had the number 2 defense in the National Football League in 22. What are you talking about? You had the number, 3 offense, number 2 defense? And he got beat by a lesser team. That guy has had nothing offensively. Nothing. Except Stephon Diggs. He wins more games with lesser talent than your guy does. You have 6 Pro Bowlers in the offense. He's got 1. You pay $135 million for your offense every year. And he gets just, and get this, he wins just as many games as your guy. Josh Allen chokes. Against who? Joe Burrow? Patrick Mahomes? Your guy choked against Mayfield. So he lost to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield. Convincingly. 3:30. Dick Vermeil will join us. 5:30 Eastern. We will talk to the legendary Mike Quick. Get his thoughts on how that thing all ended. Funny, I had a conversation with him earlier, and he was saying the same thing that Keith Byers was. That team was finished around Thanksgiving. How about that? You're great leaders in the Philadelphia organization. You got Mike Quick saying that thing was over. Thanksgiving, the season was over in November. The season was over in November. Okay? So Dick Vermeil at the bottom of the hour, and we will talk to Mike Quick at 5:30. Please hit the like button. Don't forget, March Madness, our good friends are teaming up with our friends here at JAKIB Sports, viewers and subscribers, Underdog Fantasy. Guys, we so appreciate you guys coming aboard with us and filling it up and signing up. All you have to do is put $10 in. $10. That's it. You can go as high as 100 and they'll match it. Underdog Fantasy will match it. Here's the code word. WIN. W-I-N. That's W-I-N. Make sure you use the promo code. Hey, Big Sills, love your honesty. If Dak, Purdy, and Hurts are in the AFC, are they lucky to be a wild card team if they are lucky? Your thoughts? Well, the 49ers are a great roster. If Dak's in the AFC, Dak's not in the playoffs. And neither is that team that finished up the regular season last year. You actually think, who would you take if you were going to build your team right now? Jalen Hurts or CJ Stroud? Would you take Hurts over Jordan Love right now? Who would you feel more comfortable building your team around? Jalen Hurts or Jordan Love or CJ Stroud? Hurts. Good luck to you. Really. Hit the like button. Hour number 2. Another topic question, and then Dick Vermeil will join us at the bottom of the hour. Keep it here, National Football Show.